when we talk about getting tested, um, that it's hard to get good information about it. So I want to share with you what I've learned. Um, I've tried searching online, and the test that was used to diagnose me, I mean, I just could not find it. I could not find information on like why you would need it and what's involved with it. And because there is a standard screening for depression, it consists of several questions like, in the last 2 weeks, have you had feelings of uh, overwhelming sadness? Have you felt worthlessness? Have you had thoughts of suicide? That's not adequate to diagnose clinical depression. I mean, it's probably great for situational depression. I mean, and someone who has had something tragic happen in their life recently, that's totally appropriate for them. But the test I took that diagnosed me was nothing like that. I went to a neuropsychologist, not just a doctor or even a counselor, but someone who's really expert in that field. The test I took was not a few questions. It was if there were certain tasks I was given to do. I don't want to give it away, because part of it is, you're not preparing answers for it. Part you might recognize if you take it is the Rorschach test, with those ink blots that are just totally random, but you say, what does it make you think of, or what does it look like to you? I think I gave some pretty interesting answers on that, but that was one part of it. And the thing is, and he didn't ask me how I felt or how I've been feeling lately. It was basically getting, I could tell even before I got the results that he was gathering data about how my brain worked. And so when he told me, you have clinical depression, and he explained what that was like, he explained it as a condition of the brain. It made sense because I'd seen he was gathering data about how my brain worked. So something that is a condition of the brain is totally, that's the kind of test you would need. And so, in fact, actually, what is his exact words were, you tested high for depression in every possible way. I was not prepared for that. But see, as a condition of the brain, your brain is processing like 100,000 chemical reactions per second. And two of the main categories that, again, this is explaining it in terms, they may not be official or technical terms, but in terms that I can understand. Your brain has happy chemicals and stress chemicals. Clinical depression, your brain is not able to produce normal levels of happy chemicals unless it gets help. And when you don't get enough happy chemicals, the stress chemicals in your brain overwhelm it. And see, this is not a condition that depends on circumstances. It's got nothing to do with circumstances. That's why you can feel depressed when you have no reason for it. if you find yourself feeling um, depressed, even when you don't notice any reason for it, I'd say it's a high probability that you have clinical depression and you need professional help. Now, I'll tell you, I went back, I found the folder with the original results. The person who gave me the test, he was a licensed psychologist specializing in clinical psychology and neuropsychology. You want to talk to someone who specializes in one or both of those fields and tell them you're feeling depressed even though you don't see any reason for it. You think you might have, you want to be tested for clinical or major depression, or major depressive disorder, that you think this is something more than the sadness for something that happened, because nothing's happened. Your life is going great and you still feel depressed. Like, talk to a neuropsychologist or a clinical psychologist. Tell them you want a real test, not just the standard screening. So that's the best advice I can offer you if you're depressed and you don't know why. It could be up here, could be a chemical deficiency, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. And the way he explained it to me, a diabetic has a pancreas that can't produce enough insulin. If your brain can't produce normal levels of happy chemicals, serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine are the big three. It's no different than that. It's a medical condition. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's not a weakness of character. It's not a failure of faith. And there is treatment available for it. I got treatment and it made all the difference. Now, you may be thinking about medication. You may think, I've tried medication, it didn't work for me. Well, medication doesn't work for everyone. I feel fortunate that it did for me, but there are other options. There's something called transmagnetic, that it's TMS for short. I forget the full name for it, but it's like they apply magnets to the parts of your brain, and it's targeted specifically to the areas where depression occurs and where you will, stimulate the production of happy chemicals. I looked into it at one point. There wasn't really any place convenient to me to take it, but if medication hadn't worked for me, that probably would have been the next step. There are other options. That's what I want you to get. Anyway, I hope this was helpful to you. And I wish you, I'll just say, grace and peace. And if you think you might have clinical depression, you're probably right. So get help, get tested.